Charles Bonnet Syndrome. A distorted image of a person is displayed, depicting what a person with Charles Bonnet Syndrome sees. Article by Matthew Athey, Community Team Leader, London. I first developed an interest in Charles Bonnet Syndrome, in brackets, CBS, while I was working on the helpline at RNIB. It was at the start of my time on a helpline talking to people who were losing their sight. I spoke to a woman who described seeing a young girl dressed in Victorian clothing who liked to come and sit on the sofa with her every afternoon. To say I was a little surprised by this was an understatement. I'd never heard of Charles Bonnet Syndrome at the time and really didn't have much idea of what was happening for this person. However, I was determined to find out more, and that's where my interest in Charles Bonnet Syndrome started. What do people see? Charles Bonnet Syndrome causes people who have lost vision to see things that aren't there. In brackets, hallucinate. There appear to be two broad types of hallucinations that people see: repeated simple patterns and complicated pictures of people, animals, and architecture. The pattern-like hallucinations are often seen on top of whatever you are looking at. You might see brick or tile patterns. Some people see branches and flowers growing across their vision, and some people may see colorful balls of light moving around in their vision. The more complicated vision really can be of anything. People often see children in period costume or people wearing strange hats. It's also really common to see animals such as cats, dogs, or more exotic creatures like tigers. Seeing people out of context is also common. Seeing bishops in their living room, for example, or sometimes seeing things that make more sense, such as workmen in the garden. Sometimes people see small people that are a few inches tall stood on tables or chairs in their house. Other people may see distorted faces moving toward them or away. It's also possible to have a hallucination which changes the place where you are. Some people say they see fences in their living rooms, or they may see large fields or woods when they are in their living room. There doesn't seem to be any obvious reason why someone sees what they do, and the variation in what someone may see is an individual as the person experiences the hallucinations. Why do they happen? The relationship between the eye and the brain is a complicated one, and no one is 100% sure why some people with sight loss develop CBS and others don't. It seems that losing a lot of vision can affect the way that eye and brain work together. It's as if the brain can't cope with the reduced visual information it receives from eyes affected by sight loss. The brain compensates for the lack of information by creating the Charles Bonnet Syndrome hallucinations. Although many people with CBS have age-related macular degeneration, CBS can be caused by any eye condition which causes loss of sight. So people with glaucoma or diabetic retinopathy may develop CBS. Most people with these conditions are older, but CBS can affect anyone at any age, including children and people who lose their sight because of trauma. People can be concerned when they start to see things which aren't there. It can be a frightening experience. We all know that conditions such as Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, and serious mental health conditions can cause people to hallucinate. And the fear of one of these conditions can prevent people talking about their CBS. It's important to realize that having CBS doesn't make you more likely to develop any of these other conditions, and that in almost all cases, CBS is caused by the loss of vision and nothing else. The hallucinations that people experience with CBS are different to the ones caused by other conditions in a number of ways. CBS hallucinations don't involve any of the other senses. This means that people don't experience any sound, touch, or taste when they experience the hallucinations. So the people or animals in the hallucination will not talk or make any noise. People with CBS don't develop any complex explanations for the things they are seeing, sometimes known as delusion. For example, they don't become concerned that the people they are seeing want to hurt them. Most people with CBS are aware that what they are seeing isn't real. They are aware that they are having a hallucination and aren't too concerned about it. What can be done about CBS? At the moment, there isn't any medicine which can be given to stop Charles Bonnet Syndrome. It is important if CBS starts to talk to your GP or your ophthalmologist about it. They may want to rule out other causes of hallucinations like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or mental health problems. But it's important to remember that someone who experiences CBS is not at more risk of developing any of these other conditions. Coping with hallucinations. As there isn't medical treatment for hallucinations, there are some things that might help coping with the experience. The RNIB recommend the following things which may help. If you experience hallucinations while sitting quietly, try standing and moving around a little. If it's quiet, put the radio or TV on. Sometimes just putting your attention into something else can stop the hallucinations. Sometimes just blinking rapidly or looking directly at the hallucination can cause them to stop. Moving your eyes from left to right while keeping your head still. A study showed that the exercise of moving your eyes from left to right while keeping your head still seemed to help some people to stop seeing their hallucination. If you imagine 2 points about 3 feet apart and move your eyes between those points, keeping your head still for about 30 seconds, it may stop the hallucination. It's worth trying this 3 times to see if it will work. Changing the light levels. For some people, certain light levels may cause them to experience hallucinations. So if you experience your CBS while the light is dim, try putting on more lights and vice versa. Getting enough sleep and trying to minimize stress. Some people may experience CBS more frequently when they are tired and stressed. Trying to get a good night's sleep can help. Finally, getting to know your hallucinations. What you see and when can help you with them. Usually people experience CBS more frequently when their vision first deteriorates to a low level. With time, most people notice that their hallucinations become less frequent and some will stop experiencing them. Other people may only get them now and again, whereas some people may always be prone to the hallucinations. Knowing that the hallucinations is caused by sight loss and nothing else can help coming to terms with them. I am still interested in CBS to this day, and I spoke to hundreds of people with the condition while I worked at RNIB. Almost everyone I spoke to was relieved to learn that their experiences were common and not a sign of anything to worry about. What is Charles Bonnet Syndrome? In current medical terms, it is believed that the brain pathways attempt to fill in obscured areas of vision. The Royal College of Ophthalmologists say that it is thought that Charles Bonnet Syndrome occurs when visual images are no longer channeled into the brain, which goes on to replace real images with its own stored images. Or as one member was told by our consultant ophthalmologist, it occurs when the brain becomes bored, so it creates these visual hallucinations. When describing Charles Bonnet Syndrome, I liken the condition to phantom limb syndrome, where people with missing limbs experience sensations as though the body parts are still present. For example, an amputated leg where a patient still feels their toes. Symptoms. The images are derailed and vivid, but the person experiencing them knows that they are not real. They can vary from mild symptoms to more severe. Symptoms do vary, and not everyone with a loss of sight experiences Charles Bonnet Syndrome. The visions are very detailed, sometimes bizarre, and can last from a few seconds to several hours. They seem to come and go in their own accord. Near misses have been reported by the British Medical Journal, in which patients were almost confined to mental health institutions. However, when asked about it, people generally say it is a great relief to be told of this condition and that they are not the only people who experience it. When some people tell me they see these visions, their partners can be surprised as they are not aware this occurs. For instance, one member sees snakes descending from the ceiling but did not tell his wife as he did not want to worry her. It also happens that the other way around, in that some individuals tell me that their vision impaired partner sees visions. Cats seem to be a common one, and that they frequently tell the cat to get out of the way when there is not one in the house. The mild symptoms vary from such visions as seeing lights that move across the field of vision or balls of light, horseshoe shapes, lamps or sweets that float in the air, and when the person tries to grab them, they disappointedly can't. Some people have told me that they enjoy these visions and even find them relaxing. The more moderate levels of visions are not too dramatic, but they are more detailed than lights. Some of these present as commonplace objects, for example, surfaces covered in non-existent patterns such as brickwork, mesh, or tiles. One member I visit sees color plates on a ceiling, another lion's heads on a cushions, another geometric images and Eastern-like pierced screens of stone. Then there are more complex visions which I have classed as high level. Again, these are very detailed and real, usually involving people, gargoyles, or bright abstract shapes. The image can be life-size or very small, scurrying across the floor. Since Charles Bonnet's original recordings, there have been numerous cases diagnosed. It has long been regarded as a rare disease, but recent evidence suggests that it is much more widespread than previously believed. Charles Bonnet Syndrome is generally underdiagnosed by the medical profession, but it is a rather common cause of a complex visual hallucination. The Royal College of Ophthalmic Surgeons feel that those with a sight loss have at least a 20% chance of developing visual hallucinations. They state that they think around 100,000 patients have Charles Bonnet Syndrome as a side effect of their macular disease. Some studies show its prevalence in patients with age-related macular degeneration varies from 10% to 20%. In the group of members that I visit, I found a much higher incidence, possibly 65%. This difference again could be due to medical underdiagnosis and recording, or the type of eye condition that our members experience. Medical research tells us that the most of those who experience Charles Bonnet Syndrome are people in the early stages of sight loss, and the hallucinations usually begin while their vision is still present but has diminished. The most common cause is macular degeneration. Other eye diseases such as glaucoma or cataracts can cause symptoms, and in a few rare cases, it has been diagnosed in people with no detectable vision problems. In my research, I have found that those who still have a fair amount of useful sight see less bizarre objects such as vases, shelves, books, and lines, whereas those with a more severe sight loss seem to see the more vivid images. There are members who tell me that they have seen images in the past, but these have stopped after a couple of years, whereas some tell me they see images that seem to get more bizarre as their sight deteriorates. Medical research informs us that removal of a cataract or recovery of vision can lead to improvement. Some may find relief if the eye condition progresses to total blindness, although for some people the vision will stop over time. Others are able to banish their phantoms by changing the environment in some way, such as closing their eyes, turning the lights on or off, increasing the lighting. If it happens when you are sitting down, then try standing up. Trying to keep the brain active can be helpful. Most visions seem to occur when you are relaxing. These recommendations do not banish the visions for everyone. It helps if you can try and feel in control of the environment. Some people have tried befriending their apparitions, talking to them, but of course getting no answer. Sometimes talking over feelings with a counselor or psychiatrist can help provide people with ways of coping with the visions. At the moment, there is no known cure for Charles Bonnet Syndrome. However, just knowing that it is poor vision and not mental illness that causes these problems often help people come to terms with them. Generally, these experiences will disappear after about a year or 18 months, but this will not be the case for everyone. Conclusion. Firm reassurance that Charles Bonnet Syndrome is not related to mental illness is in itself a major relief to a person already dealing with failing vision and maybe other medical problems. Some sufferers consider them as one of those things you have to put up with. I have found that once the symptoms of Charles Bonnet Syndrome are explained, they feel immeasurable relief and can often tolerate the condition better.